All right. Well, as I said earlier, we're going to talk about the money in the bank, but first we got to talk about the mark in the back. And it's poor Tony Khan. He had one bright spot last week on his television program, and on Saturday night, the Collision, and I'm assuming it's going to do a potentially record low rating because it was against Money in the Bank, which is Money in the Bank. But there were a couple of things that happened we're going to comment on. And the first one opened the program, and that was MJF's promo explaining why he did what he did to Daniel Garcia and peripherally Will Ostrich and the whole thing from last week on Dynamite. And again, it's almost a shame sometimes when they do something really good. It's a bigger shame than when they do something that's really the shits. Because when it's really the shits and hardly anybody sees it, it helps them. But when this is really good and hardly anybody sees it, it ain't gonna help them. But maybe they'll put a package on Wednesday night to bring us up to speed on the program that a few more people watch. Do you know where South Haven, Mississippi is, Brian?
I have no idea. I'm not big on Mississippi geography.
Well, it's a trick question because South Haven, Mississippi is peripherally in the Memphis, Tennessee kind of metropolitan area. And as a matter of fact, hold on one second, just so I can.
I think we're about to introduce Mr. Rand and Mr. McNally
Yes,
back to
so
the show.
we got Randy McNally coming in here because I want to make sure that I frequented that area quite often in my younger days, but now that senility is creeping in, oh, bye-bye, sweetie, love you. You too, Stace. Harley's leaving the room with Stacy. So, yeah, if you go across the Tennessee-Mississippi border, set your clocks back 20 years, ladies and gentlemen, then, South Haven is only about 10 or 15 minutes from downtown Memphis. What was that old George M. Cohan song? 45 minutes from Broadway, but it's a world away. But they've got it's another one of these small suburbs that has built a halfway decent sized arena in modern times, and they've got a building down there now. So, but the way Tony Schiavone introduced the program when they came on the air, from Memphis, here in South Haven.
I missed that.
and now people are like, wait, what? What the fuck? What happened? From Memphis, here in South Haven, it's Collision. You must have been in a collision head on, apparently.
It's like WCW in '89. We're going to be in New York, in Troy, New York.
Well, and Vince was bad about that, like a lot of other things also, in that we would be in certain places. He would just call it the College Arena or Greater Kumquatville. I don't fucking know. But anyway, they opened this program, Collision, from South Haven against Money in the Bank with a package on the MJF and Garcia and Will extravaganza last week, which we have covered. You can listen to that if you want to on our YouTube channel and then get back to us. And the package actually was well done for once. They had something to work with in that some points were made, not only verbally, but visually. And then they hit MJF's music, and he gets a big pop, obviously. Either way, he gets a bunch of noise when they know it's him coming. There was boos, there was cheers, but when they turned the music off, it seemed that the people had picked up on there were more boos going on.
No leather jacket. That's important too. It was back to looking or dressing somewhat like the old MJF.
Looking as only he can look.
Not like the Dice Rules era MJF.
Well, that's because now he's put away his childish things as he's become a man again. And they even got some "you suck" chants going, and then He said, I wish that unlike your mothers on their knees at a truck stop bathroom, you'd keep your mouth shut. So we can tell by the tone of that we're gonna go in here that he's here to lay waste to some people.
Yeah, that was the first sign that, okay, this promo may be promising.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I'll go over the points in a minute. You can't replicate this. His not only his machine gun delivery when it needs to be, but also just the sheer volume of story that was told. He made sense out of this shit for once on any of their programs. Something makes sense, not just from last week, but he made it make sense from 6 months ago. He's being consistent to who he is, MJF, who we have thought he is, who he's supposed to be. Not referring to the song and dance with Jericho, obviously, but part of the way that he last did that big babyface promo last August, which they excerpted, was when he bared his soul to the people, that he's got a rejection disorder. He named it. I have no idea. I couldn't even spell those words. I just said rejection disorder. But he was scarred as a child, and he was made to think that everybody was an evil scumbag. But now he's opened up the whole deal that he did about being a vulnerable person to be babyface last year has now, the seeds have come home to roost. I fucked that simile up. The rooster has come home to lay an egg.
To seed.
There you go. Because now you've rejected him. The people have rejected him. They started, he's off, broken his body, sacrificed his all for you people that he opened up to, and you scorned him, and you went and cheered for Will, and you went and cheered for Swerve, and you went and cheered, well, fuck you. Garcia was a pawn. You really thought that you were getting that match at All In with this? I was always going to stab him in the back because he's a Make-A-Wish kid. And then...
That was the second promising part, because it wasn't trying to elevate Garcia like everything else they do is. It's trying to put reality back into place.
It was like, I blew smoke up your ass so I could stab you in the back because you're another one of these these clowns that they're cheering for. And then, when they played the clip, he came back and he said, I told you that if I opened up to you, if you turned on me, it would tear my heart out. Because what the great heel turns in wrestling in the territory days were not when somebody just said, fuck you, and hit him over the head with a chair when nobody expected it. But it was when the heel thought, like this Drew McIntyre stuff, when he thought he was right. He thinks he's right. And he laid the whole deal out. I broke my body for you. And you chanted, thank you, Joe. And then you discarded me for Swerve and Okada. And that talentless hack Osprey. And he told the people, it's not personal between me and Garcia. He's a pawn. It's personal between me and you. I'm going to take away the things you love. I mean, Snidely Whiplash couldn't have gotten a more fucking heinous goddamn attitude, right? He's going to tie some people to the railroad tracks here. And it makes sense for once. It's not people just dressing up as somebody else or changing their hairstyle and trying to act differently. Chris Jericho. And, the line, he said, Osprey only cares about ratings from Meltzer. I care about ratings from Nielsen. Oh, my God. It says, since everybody that was watching this show will get that, so it was good. Anyway.
But that was just a tease. Let's do it. Let's pop a number, knowing he's not there. So just doing things to ratchet up the heat in the room.
Yeah. Calling him out. They play the music. He laughs. He's not here. Now, of course, the music guy now has to be on MJF's payroll. I wish he'd stick to things that he ought to nominally be able to control, but nevertheless. And he didn't even claim when he started his catchphrase at the end, they started to say his name, and he said, "No, you had your chance. Fuck you. I'm MJF, and you can thank me later." Boy, I've got a whole list of people I'd like him to get rid of. But anyway, it made sense of it, and it got some interest in him and Osprey just because he's trashing this guy, and they like young Will, so it got some interest in that without them really having to do anything physical yet. But also, it explained. He made some of the pandering, simpering nonsense now work for him in a way because he said it was fake and phony all along just to make you people like me, basically, because I wanted you to like, and you still didn't like me, so fuck you. I'm going to fuck all this shit up. I like that spunk. What about you?
Won't call it spunk. We'll start with that. I thought that was the best MJF promo in a long while. And it was a return to form in some ways, but it didn't feel like it was retro. It was what he needed. It was what this company needed. Every heel is cheered. Every babyface acts like a heel. There aren't any just flat out heels. And he's the best at it. The problem is, as good as this was, and it made perfect sense, and it went a while, and it was good, it held you, and it was his best performance in a while. It was on Collision against Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
That's the only issue I have, because you have to now seek this out to hear it, and you should hear it. If this was on Wednesday night, it would have gotten a big reaction. You know, that's the other part. He had the crowd in his hand right away, and he got a big reaction exactly when he wanted to, at all the right times here. I thought this was great. This was the best AEW promo all year, and his best promo in a long time, and it gives you some hope for the TV possibly improving, at least in his segment. Remember early on, when shit was already nuts and bad, and the booking was bad from the beginning, you always had the MJF segments. Other than the Chris Jericho shit. Fuck Jericho.
And for a while, you had the Punk segments.
And yeah, eventually you had the Punk, and then when they met up, it was the best thing in the history of the company.
And then you got no Punk, and then you had no MJF. Now at least we got one back.
And listen, those were the days when MJF meant the most to the ratings and to everything else. So a return to form and something that gives you hope for the future in some way in AEW.
Well, it also, because it even, do you remember, just let's look at the state of the group that tormented him behind the devil that had sworn to take him out and blah, blah, blah. Mike Bennett and Matt Taven, where have they even been for a while? They're still they never work on the main show, and they're in Roddy's corner whenever you see Roddy come in to do a job. And Roddy, who I just mentioned, comes in to do a job. And Wardlow, does he still work there?
I don't know what happened. Remember, even they started trying to give him like a renewed push after the things with the Undisputed Kingdom started like going nowhere. And then that went nowhere. And now he's just off TV.
And Adam Cole, who, if Adam Cole comes back, but by the time that he returns again from his injuries, and Britt Baker is a giant baby face and everybody knows they're a couple, and she's returned from her injuries. Is the devil, Adam Cole, going to be a fucking manipulative heel, Professor X in a goddamn wheelchair, sending out mayhem? Or is he going to be a beloved returning babyface hero? So that whole thing that they put MJF through was for absolute fucking naught.
And how bad are Adam Cole's injuries for real? Britt Baker just came back and she had a series of mini strokes.
No, now, come on now. Nobody said it was a series. It was a mini stroke. Now,
it was a mini stroke. Excuse me. Excuse me.
God damn, you'll have her slobbering in her fucking soup next week over this
Well, my
thing.
point is she came back. No, she got better. She came back. Adam Cole broke his foot and never returned.
Well, never's a long, long time.
When did he jump off that stage and break his foot?
I've lost track
What
now.
decade was that?
No, come on now.
No, that was like a year ago, right?
I mean, well, people I know have had leg transplants and, but I'm sure that they're working diligently. But the point being, he's not going to come back as a goddamn heel. So all of that was for naught.
The only other thing I'll say is it's a two-way street. MJF could do a job like this, not a job, but could do a promo like this and hit a home run, even if no one's going to see it on Collision, and hopefully they do replay it and people see it on YouTube. But now you need a babyface who can do the job and do the promo and get people behind him against MJF. Do you think it's Ospreay?
I think it's only Ospreay. Name another one.
You can't.
There you go.
Ospreay's the only one who's a babyface. He just left the heel stable.
Well, yeah. He resigned. He resigned, and his heel manager wished him the best in his future endeavors. God damn it. I don't even know. But that has to be Wembley because they just had people were thinking it was going to be Ospreay. I've called him Ostrich so many times. The Birdman, Willie Beware. They were thinking it was going to be him against Swerve, and he would win the title at Wembley Stadium. That's what early scuttlebutt was from all the smart sources, right? But they just had that match, and they can't have it again. So I would imagine that because of what we are seeing just unfold in front of us, and they're stupid if they don't, put MJF's biggest match and Ospreay's biggest match in Wembley Stadium. Ospreay would be MJF and MJF would be Ospreay. What the fuck else are they going to do? Mitsu Arakawa and Higo Hamaguchi in a tag team match?
Well, you got the the AEW World Champion Swerve Strickland. Adam Page is fired up and ready to go and back in action.
Okay, then let them wrestle each other, because who gives a shit? Name another match that would sell any tickets right now to anybody. Well, they've already sold, and I understand that the number has been sitting at about 40,000 for a while now. Some of them may have buyer's remorse at this point, but what match is going to instantly move tickets amongst people that ain't already going that they can put together off of their roster? I'm just asking you.
There aren't too many big matches you could really think of, are there? Yeah, they have stars. I mean, Danielson is allegedly going to be retiring at the end of the year. Moxley's a star. I'm not a fan of his. You don't have any matches for anyone that you could think of that are like, wow, that's a stadium show where we need to get some extra people in there.
Well, in that case, it's up to our boy MJF again. He's going to be hunchbacked with scoliosis from carrying this fucking company and all these dead weight, non-drawing, sorry sacks of snake feces on his back.
Did you watch any of the other stuff on Collision?
Well, I did, Brian, because we got to talk about it. Not only did we see the sublime of AEW, the MJF promo, but we also saw the ridiculous. And this is why that they're where they're at, and this is why they've been where they've been despite spending, now we know, literally hundreds of millions of dollars. And why that is not going to basically substantially change. At Money in the Bank in Toronto, Canada, and the biggest indoor sports arena there. Well, at Sky Domes technically is indoor, but they had 20,000 fucking people in Toronto, sold out in a major North American city, and they brought out the biggest star of the last 20 years, John Cena, to announce his retirement tour, featuring stops at the major pay-per-views, including WrestleMania along the way. That was a big surprise. People didn't know he was going to be there. There was a surprise in South Haven, as with the South Haven surprise. A returning superstar came back to AEW to appear on their Collision program from South Haven, Mississippi, opposite Money in the Bank.
Hometown boy.
Hometown, but well, not even a hometown. He's from Olive Branch. Not South Haven. He's from Olive Branch, Mississippi, but it's his home area. Our old friend, Dwarf Dongsucker, Marco Stunt, oh my God. They brought him back to wrestle Jungle Jackoff because of their history together when it was Jurassic Express, a boy and his dinosaur and a smaller boy, or whatever their tagline was. And this highlights the differences, the reasons. WWE gives them John Cena. AEW gives them Dwarf Dongsucker. And it's not like that this was years ago, they were just starting up. There was never an excuse for using this fucking freak show bullshit. Might as well have had a trained chimpanzee. But even in the first year, there was no excuse for it. And it gave a negative perception of that company to a lot of people. A lot of people may forget now that the biggest audience they ever did for AEW Dynamite was the first show they were on. The very first night, first show they telecast. And a lot of people tuned in and saw some amateur hour bullshit and didn't come back. And or because this amateur hour bullshit, whether it be Marco Stunt or Jelly Nutella, or to this day, our little puppy Pockets, most people that might have sampled this looked at it, besides the original audience that knew what they were getting, they looked at it and they said, what the fuck? Is this a parody of WWE, or is this supposed to be some kind of kids show? Or is it cover? They had a legless man on their first pay-per-view in a battle royal. And anything that was the indie darling or the hot thing in rec centers across America, from Hickory, North Carolina to goddamn Ottumwa, Iowa, because they were all friends, because they all worked the same shows, because these modern mark promoters fly people in from all over the fucking country to be on their shows because they have a name on the internet. That's what they presented. And as a result, they got the perception with, as we've seen, they haven't increased the audience, they've decreased it. Because some of the people that were willing to give the amateur hour a shot, it got bored with it. And what else can you see done to a human being? So you can't say what you want about even the WWE under Vince, but 98.5% of the people on the program, if they don't look like athletes, they look like some kind of celebrities. And if they don't look like an athlete, Sami Zayn, that's the gimmick of the guy that's the underdog that doesn't look like a goddamn athlete. He looks like a piece of shit, just like you assholes in the stands. You can identify with, that's the gimmick. In AEW, they got fucking 45 people with that gimmick. It's certainly not been a low rent in terms of expenditure, but AEW has had, and this is not a compliment, an indie look, a low budget look, a fucking outlaw feel, an amateurish, parody-ish, tongue-in-cheek element to some of this programming since they've been on the air. And Marco Stunt was one of the poster boys of that, and they've learned nothing. As I said, at least it's a benefit it's on, because nobody saw it anyway. but just they've learned nothing. They've learned nothing. Comment on this. I'm getting enraged.
I'll say the same things I said about the previous segment. This was a nice return to form. Marco Stunt looked great out there. This is another one of those things that should have been on Dynamite. If you're going to do it where people are going to see it. You get some payoff. It's the only time Jack Perry's ever going to look intimidating. Ever.
Yeah.
And it was buried on this show. And it, like you said, it's a long-term storyline thing if you really think about it. And it was on this show where they knew it was against the pay-per-view. They knew they were going to get killed. I don't know what else to say. It's not surprising. In the classic days of MJF doing a great promo, it was usually followed by some shitty, embarrassing thing right afterwards. And this was it. And the big benefit was just it didn't make Jack Perry look like a very, very, very skinny, in shape kid. And that's what he looks like. And that's part of the problem. You look at who are the champions.
Only because he was booked against fucking Tiny Tim.
That's
My
right.
God, put a fucking crutch under his arm and Bob Cratchit behind him, and he's Tiny fucking Tim.
You got to see Jack Perry do some of his power moves. You never get to see that. You'll never get to see it again either. So it was a very interesting match. But it exemplifies a lot of the problems with AEW, not just the general booking principles or lack thereof or the mindset behind things. Not just Marco Stunt being used, but Jack Perry. The response to everything with Punk, making him the scapegoat. If you watch the reaction, not just listen to it, but watch it, when he hit the ring, no one was reacting. He doesn't have that star quality, and Tony thinks he does. And it's one thing being a lot of these things and being a baby face who's going to get your ass kicked and have to find a way to win. It's another thing when all of a sudden you're the badass Jack Perry.
Well, yeah, because if you notice, as Jungle Boy, he had the blondish flowing locks, right? And the little loincloth thing, and you could beat him up and he could get sympathy because, you're beating up a young-looking small child. I don't know. But now he's got the dark hair and it's pulled back and he's grown the facial scuff and he still looks like he's 146 pounds. So as a heel, no. It's just he's play acting like his friends. And none of them can come to grips with the fact that they have a look for a certain thing and that's their ceiling and they ain't going past that.
Yeah, like his one big move is he smirks with a beard. That's it. What else is he doing? That's the only thing you can think of. It's an acting thing.
Hey, at least some of his friends married their beards. So the point is that this is what. Now, see, get your mind out of there. But that's the thing is that besides this indie bubble level of fan that wants this preposterous shit, that's why they haven't grown, because they had items like this, the Marco Stunt or whatever, on the program. And I'm sorry if people think, Cornette just wants AEW to fail and go out of business because he didn't like him and they didn't give him a job. I need to talk to Stephen P. New. I know that you cannot disclose what is told to you when you're under an NDA, but since the NDA has been disclosed, could I sell copies of the NDA I signed with Tony Khan in 2018, like for charity? Because it doesn't contain any of the things that he told me. It just contains language telling me not to tell any of those things. We got to check on that.
They may want you to black out. I'm talking about just like it would legitimately happen from their end. They may want you to black out the LLC name because it's not one that is publicly known, really.
Well, all right, but besides that, we could, I can understand. We can redact some information, but my opinion has not changed. I was not against the idea of a second company rising like a phoenix from the ashes and challenging Vince McMahon's dominance in the wrestling landscape. I was, to say the least, pessimistic and actually outright, horse shit, at the thought that Tony Khan was going to book it and that these outlaw morons that he was dealing with were going to be able to fucking operate it. And my opinion has not changed, and many of those roosters have come home to roost. And other people, I was the only one that was honest about it. Some people probably called bullshit at the beginning, but nobody cared what they said. Other people didn't call bullshit at the beginning because they wanted to take some of Tony's dad's money. And then when they finished with that, then they called bullshit.
Just give me a 10-year contract and some Grey Goose. I'll say great things about you.
But don't be, none of you people out there, in or out of the business, be grumpy at me because my opinion and my commentary has not changed, and many of the things that I've said have turned out to be valid because Tony can't book and these assholes can't run a goddamn national wrestling company. And that's just the way, and this is an example of it, putting their friends who amount to trained chimpanzees, Marco Stunt and Orange Cassidy, on a program that's expected to be competing with the goddamn biggest multi-billion-dollar conglomeration of fucking wrestling and fighting and fussing and feuding that's ever been, and they counter-program with shit like that. There you go.
Well, a nice return from Marco Stunt.
That's why I stayed home.
Did you see any of the other stuff on Collision?
No, I did not.
Oh, come on. There was a long Claudio match. I didn't even see who his opponent was. He was in a mask. I just fast-forwarded because I'm sick of Claudio. But this really was a return to form for AEW as a company. Riho was on the show. Yeah, Riho returned on Collision, of all places.
Her name is Riho.
Or as I think Tony Schiavone said it, she's making her debut here on Collision. Or actually, she's making her Collision debut. But she returned, and it was her against Lady Frost.
How long has she been gone now? She came back not long ago and beat some people and then left again and went back and said she was making, what, $400,000 a fucking match or whatever, or a year.
No, since then, she did the interview where apparently she said she made $400,000 a year, and also she appeared in one of Kenny Omega's video game streams in the background.
Well,
here she was against
that going for her.
Lady Frost, who I want to say I heard she's a second-generation wrestler, or she's someone's kid.
She is the grandson. No,
she's the grandson.
She's the granddaughter, I believe, of Tony Marino, the famous Tony Marino, the Batman.
The Batman with two T's.
The Batman with two T's. Like that with the exact same costume.
Well, Riho wrestled Lady Frost, and I had to watch it because, A, it's Riho, and whenever she just pops up for no reason, I'm always entertained at this point. And Lady Frost ain't bad. She's not much taller than Riho, but she's kind of built like an athlete. They said she's a gymnast. So I'm watching this match. It got real sloppy at one point, and then Riho did a dive from the top rope to the floor. It was almost like she landed arm first. Oh. And yeah, she broke her arm apparently, or fractured her arm. And then it just continued the match, and she's holding her arm and selling and kicking out of everything still. She kicked out of a perfect moonsault from Lady Frost.
She dives off the top rope to the floor and breaks her arms. Was she diving head first?
Well, I'm going to open this back up. I have it here on the computer.
And I mean, was Lady Frost, did she lose her in the lights?
Lady Frost was fucking nowhere near her.
What, she just leaped? It was a leap of faith is what you're...
Hold on,
we're not laughing about Riho getting hurt, but you know what? We predicted Riho getting hurt because how the fuck is Riho not going to get hurt when she's 90 pounds with rocks in her pockets doing shit with goddamn grown adults that she shouldn't be doing?
Hold on, I got the finish where she's gripping her hand, her wrist. Let me go back to the dive. It was right after picture-in-picture. Here's the moonsault. Going back 15 seconds on a clip. Here's Riho gingerly walking back up the stairs, holding her arm. You gotta see this. Here she is. She's running now. She's going to the top rope. Riho is on the top rope. Lady Frost on the floor. Riho dives, lands at the feet of Lady Frost, arm first.
Oh. Was she trying to catch herself, or she was off balance?
You know what? There's no way she would have. She was too far. I mean, again, I'm not even blaming Lady Frost. I'm saying Riho shouldn't have jumped until... I don't know if Lady Frost wasn't close enough or not getting closer, but that was...
getting closer to your dive.
The injuries from dives and jumps has gone through the roof. Adam Copeland broke his leg jumping leg first off the cage onto the table. Whatever the fuck that was.
You know, he thought if he got his feet under him and just kind of leaned over the table. But anyway, that's okay. Poor Riho. Hopefully she gets well and goes home and gets a job as a clerk or an accountant or anything that you do that doesn't require diving off shit. And, but yeah, so Riho and Marco Stunt on one side, and on this other show, they give us John Cena. What at this point?
The main event was Adam Page, the Hangman, versus Jay White, the channel changer. And
wait a minute, I thought that Adam Page is now a heel because he came out and kicked the shit out of poor old Jeff Jarrett.
Owen Hart tournament.
And then now Jay White's a heel.
Right.
Because he's part of the Gangbang Gang.
And they really bloodied up Adam Page, the heel, who comes out there now with the mustache, but you got to see him when he hits the entrance stage. Now he just makes angry faces. So he kind of just looks like Dax with long hair when he gets on the stage. But that was Collision against the pay-per-view. Unless there was a good reason, that MJF thing should have been on Dynamite. And hopefully it will be, in some form.
He's a rich kid, and he's gone too far, but you know it don't matter anyway. He can rely on old Shad's money. He can rely on old Shad's money.
You know, you would have it so good right now if you came back to managing. Because you've established it where you could just grab the mic and start singing to get your heat.
Hey!
You don't have to do much. You could just stand in the middle of the ring and sing. No one's going to get to you.
No, I'm telling you, I'd be hitting those high notes. And as a matter of fact, Bobby Eaton used to always request I sing his favorite song. He'd say, Corny, can you sing Far, Far Away?
That was his favorite song?
Yep. And so I'd go as far as I could, and sometimes I couldn't even see him by the time I got finished. But nevertheless.
Well, let's get far, far away from Collision. That was AEW Collision.
You know what you need to do, Brian? You need to get in a better state of mind to listen to music. Because you're always stressed. You're up, you're not sleeping, you're stressed, you're working too hard. And you don't have enough high quality, clean, all natural ingredients and things that you take. You're taking trash and garbage and over the counter hoo-ha. You need to cool out, chill out, calm down, get relief from pain, get relief from stress, get relief from the hurry-scurry society that we live in. That's what you need. Can you tell you're hanging on by your fingertips?
I'm okay. I mean, I'm busy and everything. I'm not really as stressed as you say. Riho, I'm watching the finish of this match where somehow they still gave her the win over Lady Frost. She looks like she's in pain. Send her to the emergency room. This is embarrassing. She could use some help.
Well, there you go. I'm sure a couple of drops of items from CB Distillery would have fixed her broken arm right up. Because, folks, in 2 non-clinical surveys, 81% of customers experienced more calm. 80% said CBD helped with pain after physical activity. An impressive 90% said they slept better with CBD. And 1.5% said that CBD instantly healed their broken bones suffered in a near-fatal dive in a pro wrestling match.
Well, for the record, I don't believe that's actually one of the statistics they've supplied us with, so let's just make sure we
it's within the margin of error, see? So you can't really disprove it.
Well, you got me there.
That's how that works. Long as you're under 2%, anything could happen. Dalmatians could mate with monkeys. Under 2% margin of error, folks. Take it to the bank that our friends at CB Distillery will make you feel better with the highest quality clean ingredients. No fluff and no fillers. That means no feathers, no foam rubber. They're not going to make you take those packing peanuts. You know, a lot of these various CBD organizations, they actually grind up packing peanuts into a fine dust, put it in capsules, and it's totally a placebo.
Well, for the record, we do not know of what anyone else is doing, or specifically this that they are doing.
I heard it from a guy at Kroger.
Who?
Well, this guy was wandering around Kroger.
Just saying this out loud?
Yeah, he had a poster about it. It was a sandwich sign, more or less. It was hanging around his neck. I think he was a disgruntled ex-employee. But folks, I'll tell you, at CB Distillery, you don't have to worry about taking capsules filled with packing peanuts ground up into powder, because they actually have doctors and professional people making this stuff. And it's, again, no fillers, just pure effective CBD solutions designed to help support your health. And after all, your health needs all the support it can get. If your health goes limp and it can't be propped up or stiffened up in any way, well, how are you going to use your health? So if you struggle for a health concern and you haven't found relief, and if you've turned to various forms of street drugs and alcohol without success, send all those street drugs and alcohol to me and go to cbdistillery.com.
Don't ship
right
drugs
now.
or alcohol to anyone. On behalf of myself and the U.S. government, do not do that, ladies and gentlemen.
Don't put your real return address on it, just in case. And with over 2 million customers and a solid 100% money-back guarantee, CB Distillery is the source that you can trust. This is not some street corner arrangement, folks. If you don't get high off this shit, they'll give you your money back.
You're not going to get high. You're not going to get high. I don't know what to say. You can't.
Well, I mean, if you're not high on, did I misspeak? I said, if you're not high on this formulation, which meaning the full-throated endorsement of it and able to say that it honestly and legitimately helped you with your various burdens, that you're high on this stuff, and 2 million people are, and they got a money-back guarantee. So go to cbdistillery.com right now. Use the code JCE. You're going to get 20% off. cbdistillery.com. Use the code JCE. You're going to get 20% off the fine items contained therein at that website that are brought to you by these trained professionals and backed up by non-clinical surveys.
That's right. And again,
Yes.
Whether you are in the clinic or out of it, it doesn't affect any of this.
Well, see, a lot of those clinics are biased, you know. They have biased results. It's the non-clinical surveys that really tell you the truth about what the average jack-off on the street is thinking. Because you won't find most of these people on the street going into a clinic.
Well, again, for some help with the aches and pains of life or a good night's sleep, CB Distillery. What's that promo code? One more time, Jim.
JCE for help with the aches and pains of life. And in addition to your relatives, it also helps with your close friends.